Welcome to another great edition of the Gridiron Glory. We're here to recap Steelers at Falcons from week one of the NFL season. And yeah, so the Steelers ended up going on the road and beating the Atlanta Falcons 18-10. And no touchdowns scored by the Pittsburgh Steelers in this football game. Chris Boswell, their leading scorer. Russell Wilson was dealing with a calf injury in this football game, so Justin Fields ended up being the starter. He went 17 of 23, 156 yards, averaged 6.8 yards. So not a terrible showing, but I feel like the bigger storyline in this game was Kirk Cousins and his Atlanta debut. 16 of 26, 155 yards, a touchdown with 2 picks. So with Kirk Cousins, coming off of the injury and everything, and also transitioning into a new team, under a Raheem Morris system, he's going to have to really try to transition to that. He's got a lot of great young pieces around him, like Bijan Robinson, Tyler Alliger, Ray McLeod, the third even, perhaps Kyle Pitts, the tight end, Drake London, the up-and-coming receiver. Kirk Cousins is definitely a guy who has a lot of young pieces that he's going to be able to work with and really be able to, if anything, be a veteran in that locker room and really teach these guys and really develop these guys. So, yeah, you take the week 1 L, but it's just one game. And I definitely don't think Falcons fans have any reason to freak out. As far as the Steelers go, obviously Russell Wilson did not end up playing in this football game. But with that being said, Justin Fields tried to do everything he could to go out there and at least lead, 6 field goal drives. And I mean, I know that's not flashy or anything, and especially on paper, it's not flashy, but this was a nitty gritty type of football game. And I mean, it was pretty neck and neck most of the way. Yeah, I mean, it was, I remember it being like, I think it was like 10-9 at one point even. And then, the Steelers ended up coming back a little bit. So, I mean, no, really, it was just like a football game where it was pretty neck and neck up until the fourth quarter. So it was a dogfight. It was definitely a dogfight for most of this football game. So, yeah, while it looks like Pittsburgh did what they did, it was honestly a lot closer than that even. This was a really close football game. And I don't want to take away from Kirk Cousins and what he did. I mean, yeah, you take the week 1 L, but at the same time, it's like, it's just you got to give that a little bit of time. And I definitely think Atlanta is going to be okay. As far as the Steelers, Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields, that was kind of a big storyline all offseason long going into the preseason. So now Justin Fields, he's getting his chance to I mean, you would probably think that Mike Tomlin would give Russell Wilson the rightful chance to still be the starter, given the fact that he earned the job in the preseason. But you never know. I mean, Mike Tomlin could change his mind on that. Mike Tomlin could simply decide to switch it up to Justin Fields. So, which would be awful for Russell Wilson, given everything that he's been through these last few seasons. But this is still nonetheless an opportunity for Justin Fields in a new system, given where he's been, what he dealt with Chicago, and earlier in his career. So now Justin Fields is on a new team, getting new chances to prove himself and getting a new chance to prove himself in a whole new different kind of way. So, yeah, but really more so than anything, it was to me the Steelers defense that really showed out in this game. And let's talk about TJ Watt. What is your take on TJ Watt?
Yeah, I mean, you got a disruptive defensive player like TJ Watt, one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL. I mean, he was just causing so many problems for Atlanta's offensive line, made things very difficult for Kirk Cousins in his first start off his injury. So yeah, when you get a guy like TJ Watt out there, he's just gonna wreck a game. He had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, 3 hits on the quarterback. I mean, he's a guy that can just cause so many problems, and he's a guy you have to game plan around if you're the other team's offensive coordinator. You got to think, what's TJ Watt going to do? Is he a guy that's just going to be out there causing problems? How can I block him? How can I run my offense around him? And I mean, Atlanta, they just didn't really have a perfect answer for TJ Watt. And to be fair, nobody has an answer for TJ Watt. He's a guy that just causes problems for a lot of teams. And just Pittsburgh, they're a very strong defensive team. They're a team that wins with defense. They've done it all throughout Mike Tomlin's tenure in Pittsburgh. And I see no reason for that to change this year. I mean, he adds a lot of talented defensive players led by Patrick Queen, the linebacker who had been playing for the Ravens, their division rival, for his career. So very strong start for the Pittsburgh defense. You hold Atlanta scoreless in the second half of the game, give your offense a chance to make the plays you need to make to win that football game, and you just completely made life very difficult for the Atlanta offense. They could just never get in rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of just boiled down to what that front seven from Pittsburgh could really do and what they could really show and what they could really display. I mean, it's also worth noting some other offensive players for Pittsburgh, like George Pickens, Pat Fryermuth even had a couple of solid takes there throughout the game. Jalen Warren, I mean, kind of a little iffy there. Najee Harris, a very tough running back. I feel like Najee Harris is kind of one of the more underrated running backs, per se, in my opinion, in the NFL. I mean, I feel like he is just a really dynamic, built, tough player. I mean, 20 carries, that's a lot. And, I mean, 70 yards, I mean, that's a lot of carries. That's a lot of contact. And, I noticed a lot that Najee Harris was, taking a lot of contact throughout this game and showing his resiliency. So, I mean, if anything, he's a very resilient running back.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that you had Justin Fields with 14 rushing attempts as well. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback, a guy that's more developed as a rusher than he is a passer. He's been spending most of his NFL career trying to develop into the passer that they hoped he was when they drafted him in Chicago, and now they're trading for him in Pittsburgh. So he still has some work in the passing game, but he's always been a dynamic runner. So that's something that they have to offer in Pittsburgh with a guy like Justin Fields. And it'll be really interesting to see how the offense shifts with him at quarterback, or if they go back to Russell Wilson at some point. I'd say at this point, it's still indicative of Justin Fields to go win the job like Russell Wilson wanted in the preseason. And I'd imagine, barring a massive change, that he would resume as quarterback when he's healthy, be that this week or the following week. We'll see how that goes, but I'd imagine we'll still have a chance to see Russell Wilson under center in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. So going forward here, it does look like the Steelers play the Denver Broncos on the road next week, which kind of was going to be like a hyped storyline in a bit with Russell Wilson going back there. But
yeah,
regardless of what happens, I'm sure it'll be a fun game there. And then Atlanta ends up playing next week on Monday Night Football at Philadelphia. Kirk Cousins against Jalen Hurts. Should be a fun matchup. Be sure to hit subscribe, like this video, comment, let us know what you think.